It's time for episode 2 of Women of the League Producers Cut podcast, a podcast taking you behind the scenes of Women of the League. We're down here in the war room right now where everything took place. There was a bunch of screens right here downstairs. It's kind of like the comms room, talking from down here, the producers up to the talent, 4 floors upstairs when the show was going live. Now, episode 1 was just setting the stage for what was to come. Episode 2 is where Josie and the team dove into challenges of being an NFL family. From your guys' perspective, what was your biggest takeaway from episode number 2? Hannah, we'll start with you.
I think episode 2, they really loosened up some and lightened up and got a little bit more deep into the questions. And again, I thought Josie did amazing, with kind of pushing them a little bit, hey, explain that a little more, or let's dive into this feeling or that feeling. So I was really proud of all of them for really opening up and really for the first time being super vulnerable when there's 20 people in the room. It's a really, I couldn't do it. It's super cool thing for them, within their lives, and where they're at and kind of all the unknowns that they talked about, to sit here and be able to voice that to each other and again, connect with each other as well. So, again, very proud of them.
Yeah, it was cool. I think my takeaway really was, and this is, the point of, I guess, this podcast is to talk about some of the things that we're working on to bring this show to be the best it can be, is you saw, if you watch back to episode 1, one thing that we talked about right after it wrapped was just it felt a little bit more interview style. Mm-hmm. And we really want this to be a conversation. So we pressed harder to say, hey, while Josie is the host and she's driving this, we need co-mingling between the wives on questions and follow-ups and wife-to-wife conversations, mm-hmm. right? And so I felt like that actually started to translate here in that second episode. And you started to see it was more of a conversation. And the walls started to come down. And, we started to hear some stories that the real value comes from, right? And they were willing to talk about some of the vulnerabilities that they face. And so while we're filming this, we don't know what 3, 4, 5, and 6 look like. But it's exciting to know that the slight tweak we made between 1 and 2 made this level of impact. I think this show just keeps getting better. So that's what I really took away. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think for me, it's really, really cool to have them all get around the table, and they have these lives that are glorified in a lot of ways, financially, leisurely, in so many different, mm-hmm. Facets. And it's cool to hear some stories and some situations that they've been in, good and bad, because you can relate it back to your own life in the way that they're going about things. I think an example is they told a story about how their they're not really with their husbands during mm-hmm. Thanksgiving and Christmas and all these different things. And, part of the purpose in hearing that is there's a lot of people out in the world that are dealing with those mm-hmm. same exact things. And to hear someone that, you look up to and that does have this glorified life, sit there and you can relate to them on those levels is empowering to everybody.
Yeah, I think Kim said something that I thought was really deep, and I don't think we dove super deep into it from a show perspective, but I think there's something there when she was talking about how her goal is to focus on the similarities of people, and that there are differences, right? Certain people have certain blessings and others have different types of blessings, and it just depends, right? But instead of focusing on the differences, she wants to focus on the similarities, and that's what you're kind of bringing up, mm-hmm. right? People in the NFL, they may have a game on the holiday. So does surgeons and, firemen, and so does military and doctors. I mean, there's other people that have that. So it's really eye-opening to when you start to think about it. We as a society don't focus on our similarities enough.
That's very true.
We focus on the differences, and I think this show is starting to show when we look at the women of the league everybody thinks about the wealth and all the differences of these wives and not the similarities of the challenges that they face. And I thought that was powerful when Kim was talking about that.
Yeah, extremely.
That's definitely true. I thought, just those types of conversations throughout it. So you got Kim. One of the things that stuck out to me was the discussion about injuries and how vulnerable and open they became on that topic. And we were actually sitting down in the war room, as we're calling it, with the 5 screens and stuff. And sure, we've got our outline script and stuff like that of what the topics are and such like that, but we had nothing in there on injuries. And I looked at Santino and Avalon, who's the producer on this show, and said, we should go down this road. Concussions, injuries, because it's such a hot topic of the NFL. And then it was instant where all of a sudden they started to be like, yeah, I got to think about my husband getting a head injury and how that messes him up for life.
And I thought
to be able to walk around with my
for
child.
sure. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Whitney, I think, really opened up on that one because she was like, because Josie asked, because Whitney started talking about Dalton playing with his broken fingers and all of his injuries in the past, and Josie was like, have you told him that's how you feel and you're kind of hesitant for him to do that? And she's like, yeah, I have. And it's his decision at the end of the day. So that's, a bottom line kind of relationship conversation that you have to have.
And a tough one.
Yeah, and a tough one.
So tough to, because, and it's a challenge that again, everyone faces, is this idea of how much do you support your spouse even when their passion is sometimes hurting them? Yep. But it's their passion. So
that's what they all kept referring back to. This is their passion. This is their dream.
Right. So you bring a great point. That was not on script, but they went and it just kept going. And I was
that was a good part.
And you heard all of them. I want to see him be able to walk with my child. I want, Kim said, to be able to have the brain,
the mental capacity
to understand it.
Yeah.
And to hear that side of the family focus, we all at this point when this is being filmed saw the absolutely horrific Tua issue, right? And so it comes off of time where we watched that happen, and it was horrible to watch. But you're still, when you see that happen, transparently, even for myself in the sports and entertainment industry, I'm thinking of Tua. I'm thinking of Tua, right?
Yeah, not his kids.
Not his kids, not his future kids, not his wife, not his family, who are sitting there saying, that's my son, that's my husband, that's my father to my kids. Is my kid going to be able to interact? You don't think about the family impact of that when that happens.
And I think Kim even said that she didn't think of that before she started, being with Jeff. But now, she takes injuries a lot more personal because she does think about the family now.
There's a lot of residual effects.
Yeah,
as well.
And Whitney said she's every time Dalton goes down, I just look and make sure that he gets back up and how he gets back up. And
funny?
It's oh my God,
yeah.
Watching a game honestly has to be brutal.
Oh, yeah, Kristen's talking. Kristen's talking about how she's literally pacing around. She's a crazy person because it's literally she can't sit still and she can't watch some of it and
especially for her at the quarterback position where those dudes are chasing him down to crush him.
I know he is the target.
Yes, on every single play.
And one thing that I think is really exciting, this is kind of taking it somewhat to a different path, but we can bring it back, was just I saw really eye-opening while we're on this topic about injuries, a tweet, and it was somebody in the MMA space. And they said, when I saw what happened to Tua, I said, oh, that's horrible. He'll be back in 6 weeks if medically cleared. Because in MMA, in UFC, those type of injuries are so common. That type of concussion where you see their body tense up like that happens every major fight. So that fan base is just normalized to that. And so in the NFL, it's still a very violent sport, not as violent as MMA, but it's just crazy to think about that. And I think a platform like Women of the League, our goal with it is that down the road, we can have a global impact in sport and talk about women beyond just the NFL, and that's the goal with this show. And so when I start hearing these wives, it does open up your imagination to say, man, I can't even imagine what that's like in other sports, in other moments. So it was interesting to hear.
Yeah. There's a lot of good conversation in episode number 2, like the Super Bowl, the journey that was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
with
that
Jared
was her
Goff.
first season with
The
Jared.
rise
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all of that
Yeah.
is
Kim talking about her husband getting a concussion in a car accident on the way to
Yeah.
facility, not in an actual football game. Allie's got hours of good content.
Yeah.
There's no
I
lacking
mean, this
there.
series is like
Packed.
made for her because
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
her whole entire platform is built around this vulnerability
And
mental
transparency.
Yeah,
she really
yeah.
is super transparent about
Yeah.
like just all of their experiences within the NFL.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is literally perfect for her.
It sucks that we have 30 minutes to tell this story because episode 2 is 75 to 90 minutes packed.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely spots that got pulled out. So
And we don't even know what's pulled out yet.
yeah, we
So-
we don't.
It's a guessing game for all of us, but that's
we're gonna have to pitch to Mike that this needs to be
Yeah.
45 minutes.
yeah, for sure.
Get ready for that.
Santino's going to wake up at about 3:30 a.m. Pacific time, so we got to go to bed.
Yeah, it's super late our time because we're all we're in
Yeah.
Pacific, but it's 10:15 when we're filming this, so that's midnight us and 1 and some 1:15 your time.
But he'll be up. So, yeah,
be
we
up,
got to go
yeah.
to bed, but that's going to wrap up episode 2 of Women of the League podcast, Producer's Cut. Guys, enjoyed the conversation. We'll do it again tomorrow night.
Awesome.
All right.
Peace.